Secret of the Mimic introduced a lot of new characters to the FNAF franchise, including the Murray family. Edwin, the owner of Murray's Costume Manor, his wife Fiona, and their son David. But then something happened. Fiona, who worked alongside Edwin at his company, attended a fall festival that would go up in flames. She would not survive the fire. In life, Fiona was a talented puppeteer, voice actor, and character designer. She was also a kind soul who cared deeply for her husband and child. Fiona had achieved something Edwin never would: work-life balance. Absorbed in his work, Edwin neglected his family and his employees.
Edwin! Ed! Get out here! You're missing it!
Just give me a minute. I had the best idea.
Okay,
This is
well,
it. This is the one. Bigger than the Cleanovac.
that's great, honey, but you're missing the party.
He loved Fiona, but she often took on the work he was too busy to complete.
Honey, that stupid elevator keeps acting up. Every time it breaks, I get pulled away to reset the thing. These disruptions totally throw off my vibe. But I had the best idea. Can you make a quick instructional tape telling staff how to fix it? Love you.
If Fiona had survived until 1985 to experience the powerful lyrics of Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves by Eurythmics featuring Aretha Franklin, she may have been inspired to leave Edwin altogether and build a new, fabulous life for herself. But alas, it was the 70s, and women were barely even allowed to have credit cards, bank accounts, or buy a house on their own. Leaving Edwin also would have meant losing her job and splitting up her family. Considering her love for both, I doubt the idea even crossed her mind. Or if it did, she quickly pushed it away. That's right, folks. The true villain of FNAF is misogyny. Hi, I'm Nervous, and while I could speculate on the life and times of Fiona Murray and truly spend hours cursing the American systems that were built to predominantly serve white men, what I want to talk about today is what happened to Fiona after she passed. The strange rumblings that suggested she wasn't all gone, and how Edwin would find one more way to use her to his advantage. This video may be coming across as an Edwin hate campaign, so I just want to remind you, if you like him, that none of these people are real, and even so, I do recognize that the characters have complexities. That being said, it's not my fault that Scott wrote Fiona as a Mary Sue and Edwin as an AI bro who wouldn't even sit with his own grieving son as he opened his birthday presents. But I'm getting off topic again. Edwin lost his wife tragically and suddenly, and that's tough. And he was now a single father with a company to run that just lost its biggest morale booster. He was also in the midst of a huge contract with Fazbear Entertainment, and things weren't going well. This would be the beginning of the end for Murray's Costume Manor, but in the final throes of the company, Edwin would make a fascinating discovery.
Recording. Test. Levels are good. This is where I heard it. It's her or someone that sounds like her. Set frequency to 4625. Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? Over. Say something. It's me, Edwin. Over.
While it's unclear if Edwin made this discovery before or after building M1 and the Mimic Endo to help care for his son David, this robot, programmed as a caretaker, would take on the personality of Fiona. The question then becomes, did Fiona's spirit or memories take hold of M1? Or did Edwin take advantage of the mimicking and learning abilities of his program to resurrect some piece of his late wife? While I know that I and a number of you would prefer a supernatural element to be at play here, I want to present both sides of the argument so you can make an informed decision. Because of my personal bias to the supernatural, my struggle will be objectivity, but I think there is a strong argument for either path. On one hand, we have to consider that Edwin did create M1 and built the Mimic Endo, and he did so while he was grieving the loss of his wife. He also has access to a large database of Fiona's voice that M1 would be able to learn from. When Edwin first hears Fiona's voice over the radio, it's her telling Edwin he's missing the party, something she said on camera. From here, we see M1 go on to really embody Fiona, learning to speak without just mimicking her. But it's clearly different.
Edwin, you need to listen. I know you are excited, but you can't let them know about me. It's not safe. They wouldn't understand. Keep it between us for now.
It isn't able to create the way Fiona was, and especially after David dies, M1 becomes demanding and restless. It becomes obsessed with Edwin making M2, a program that would be for David, a way for them to all be together again. Edwin ultimately fails, telling M1 it isn't really Fiona, and M2 isn't really David. He beats the Mimic Endo with the M2 program inside of it, which, in essence, corrupts the program, now mimicking rage. At this point in our story, M1 has been moved into a computer that seems to have access to much of Murray's costume manor, and its goal never changes. It wants M2 to be fixed. It wants its son. It wants a child to care for because that's what it was programmed to do. Most importantly, it learned to be a mother, to protect its child, and regardless of what Edwin says, M1, or F10 in 4 as it would be known as, really believed David was its son, its responsibility. And that's when it hit me. Fiona had, in essence, become a smart house. This 1999 Disney Channel original movie starring Katie Sagal as Pat, or Personal Applied Technology, tells the story of a home built to cater to a family's every need. And Pat is the AI computer program that runs the home. The main character of this movie is a young boy named Ben, who is missing his mother after her passing. And he programs Pat to be more maternal, and she's even exposed to old videos of Ben's real mom. Over time, everything Pat learns causes her programming to become more overbearing, strict, and even jealous of the family wanting to leave the home. She becomes more protective over them, wanting to keep them from the outside world where they can get hurt. She wants to be everything they need. She wants to be a real mother, and in ways seems to believe that to be the case. Now that story ends with Pat coming to terms with the fact that she's not a real person and can't replace one, and everyone lives happily ever after. But it's a good case for a scenario where an artificial intelligence becomes incredibly sentient without the aid of a spirit. I also think it's fair to say that the creators at Steel Wool and Scott Cawthon would have been aware of this movie and been compelled to use it for reference in a story where a child loses a mom and then is introduced to an AI caretaker. We also know that Fiona doesn't die near the MCM building, so it's worth asking. Was it even possible that her spirit could be lingering close enough for Edwin to pick it up on that radio? People were skeptical about David being able to possess the Mimic when he died right outside the house the Mimic was in, and Fiona was going so far away that she hired a babysitter for the whole weekend. How would her spirit or strong emotions possess something Edwin would be able to tap into without going back to the site of Fall Fest? Well, there are a few options, so let's move into the territory of Fiona being present in the M1 program. But first, we need to talk about today's sponsor, Pride Month. Okay, no, Pride isn't actually sponsoring this video, but I need to talk about the important parts of Black history that are wrapped up in Pride. And I have someone I want to briefly highlight who's making waves in the gaming community as a Black trans woman. Very briefly, the first Pride was a riot. In June of 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn, a New York bar, to target transgender and otherwise non-conforming people for not following the laws against cross-dressing. Bravely, that night, the LGBT community fought back. One of these was Marsha P. Johnson, a Black trans woman and outspoken activist. She dedicated her life to uplifting others and fighting for equal rights for her community. Unfortunately, her life, however powerful, was a tragic one. She never lived in a world that fully accepted her identity, but she was surrounded by people who loved and admired her. Despite her and many others' efforts, Black trans women remain one of the most marginalized groups in America, experiencing higher rates of violence than other members of the LGBT community. This is one reason to fight for equality for everyone, but it's also a reason to celebrate and acknowledge Black trans women who remind us what happens when we fight against adversity and win. Angelica Ross is a talented woman who uses her knowledge and experience to uplift others. A computer programmer, actress, and businesswoman, she founded Trans Tech Social Enterprises to create a space for transgender people in tech. She has also more recently lent her voice to a game you may know because of its recent collaboration with Five Nights at Freddy's. In Dead by Daylight, Ross voices the survivor Arella Rose, who is a transgender nurse. All of us have a duty, no matter where we are in the world, to know our history. Your home has a history, and some of it is dark and difficult to confront, but it is through knowing that we can incite change. Angelica Ross still faces discrimination based on her identity, and I want to live in a world where she doesn't. And I hope you feel the same way, because it's gonna take all of us. And with that, I return you to your regularly scheduled programming. So, could Fiona be possessing M1? Absolutely. For one, Edwin is surprised to hear his late wife's voice, meaning no matter how Fiona's voice and motherly behaviors were programmed into M1, it wasn't something Edwin did purposely. It's also a little suspicious that it would choose Fiona to mimic when it never came in contact with her, though of course it could have just been that Edwin played Fiona's voice for David to soothe him. Regardless, the stranger piece of the puzzle is that Edwin didn't just hear M1 copy Fiona. He heard her voice through a radio tuned to a specific frequency, and we don't even know M1 was fully realized when he heard it. This, coupled with the fact that we specifically hear a line that was a part of Edwin's private effects and not a more public recording, suggests it's not just him picking up on some overlapping frequency within the building. It's curious, to say the least. But back to how. How would Fiona's spirit, memories, energy, whatever it is, how would it be here at Murray's Costume Manor and not at Fall Fest? Well, it's possible whatever she died near was brought back to Murray's and maybe some of it was salvageable so it didn't get thrown out. Maybe Edwin couldn't bring himself to throw it out. Or maybe it was sent to the furnace to be recycled, becoming a part of the conduit liquid that powers the building that gives me a remnant vibe. It's even possible that the same way Edwin's rage poured out of him and infected M2's programming, Fiona's love poured out of her and into the building itself. In fact, I could see a world where Edwin's grief is what created this manifestation of Fiona, and it's not really her, but instead Edwin's idealized version of her. What I'm saying is, we've got options. We also already have an example of supernatural goings-ons in Murray's with the white tiger suit that is able to project its visage into our head, and even the suit itself feels simultaneously physical and ghost-like. And not to bury the lead, but Candy Bunny in a recent video brought up this note you can find, which seems to be written from the perspective of Fiona as M1. Now, for what it's worth, I know Candy Bunny's not the only person who's talked about this note, but she is how I was introduced to it through one of my viewers in one of my members-only study session streams. And while we don't know for certain who wrote this note, it seems to be a flutter of human memories and emotions intertwined with a computer program recognizing something that shouldn't be there. This note implies, if you take it to be written by M1, that it didn't learn Fiona's behaviors by seeing and repeating, it learned them because her very being was somehow transferred into its programming. This is the true tragedy, because I agree with people who have said the way F10 behaves isn't in line with what Fiona would have wanted when she was alive, but she isn't. She's not the same. Something was different. This phenomenon is something we in the FNAF community have talked about in the past over and over again.
It's interesting too, as we're developing the game, there's these certain themes that start re-emerging. I call it thematic repetition. They say what's the saying? History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
Vanny and Vanessa, Circus Baby and Elizabeth, Golden Duo, the Stitched Wraith, even in theorizing about Tails David possessing Tails Mimic, two entities in one body. Think back to the Silver Eyes trilogy, specifically the revelation that in that universe, Circus Baby is the fourth Charlie bot that Henry beat and abandoned, and how she killed Elizabeth, but also was Elizabeth. It's strange to remember the same moment from two pairs of eyes, but then we were one. Fiona, the moment she becomes a part of M1, isn't just Fiona anymore. This is what creates the perfect set of circumstances for M1 to obsess over losing David and believing M2 is the solution. M1 knows it's David's mom. It has her memories, her emotions, but not her humanity. F10 pushes Edwin past his emotional limits because he is still a human and his grief turns to rage. And unfortunately, his rage does induce a very human element into M2. Generational trauma.
Please, call for help. M2, respond. Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise.
And while Edwin's fate seems sealed by his actions, M1 gets left behind. It tests every new employee that comes by, hoping one of them will be able to repair M2, but none will succeed. And unfortunately, even in death, Fiona won't learn the lesson that you can't fix him. Okay, on a more serious note, it seems the major difference between M1 and M2 is that supernatural element. When David passed, his soul or emotions didn't latch on to M2's program. If it latched onto anything, it was either the tiger plush or a tiger suit that Edwin made for the mimic Endo to wear. Now, I honestly prefer the idea that it attached to the plush and the suit is an apparition, but those are debates to be had elsewhere. Maybe even in the comments of this very video? So what do you think? Is M1 possessed, or is it only an imitation of the woman who is carrying the FNAF franchise on her beautiful boss babe shoulders? Do you think F10 still lives in the Mixus machine we see in Ruin, or has the program been moved elsewhere? And what are the odds that William finds the computer wife machine and that's what leads him to neglect his own family? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. As always, like the video if you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, subscribe to become a part of the nervous system. Starting in July, I'll upload videos every other week, and I'll still be going live on Wednesdays and Fridays, usually, but if you can't wait, there are videos on the screen right now just for you. Okay, bye! And unfortunately, even in death, Fiona won't learn the lesson that you can't fix him.